Yeah, it's wonderful to have you here. So just before we start, can I give you a very short introduction? So yeah, so you're working for Remio,
Yes.
and you are, as I can read from your bio, you're an expert in designing platform quality and also project management. And as the CDO of VEDX solution,
Oh,
you're into like, yeah, how the awesome immersive experience can actually be deployed in schools. So even though you're not on the educational side directly, you are a lot of you're in touch with educators. So
yeah.
yeah, I'm really excited about and yeah, bring it on.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. Like, actually, in my time at Remio, I learned more and more about what my role is because it can feel very different from week to week. But like, we ended on head of product because I'm expected just to make sure everything in the product is high quality and the team is getting what they need. So yeah, they used to call that a generalist, but I guess I'm head of product now. Um, so yeah, so like as I said, I'm here. Can I go ahead and share my screen?
Should be working.
Okay. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, great.
Get rid of that. Okay. So yeah, I did a slight change to the title. So just some observations on team and community building in VR. So this isn't going to be from a research perspective, even though I have done that previously, especially in terms of harassment in social VR, which is what I wrote my master's thesis on about 6 years ago, I want to say, 5 years ago. But yeah, so this is just, as I said, looking behind the curtain, seeing what goes, the thought process that goes into team and community building, and give kind of a real look at that, like through the discussion. So before I started at Remio, I've been there for just under a year, but they've been going for about 2.5 years. So before I got to the company, their thought about like what VR VR for enterprise would be like is like you would start to use VR for productivity. So you would go in there, you'd have your meetings, have a whiteboard, notepads, like record your session, and then tie it into the day-to-day operations that advances your team and your product and so on. So that's the kind of thought they had, and they built in Remio a lot of tools to support that. And they still exist. They still exist. You can still use them for that purpose. But in the end, like as anyone working in product knows, well, how people use that product might differ from your imagination for it. So what actually ended up happening was, well, this was the expected experience. Like you'd be like sitting there working on something in 3D within VR, but the actual experience with productivity was nothing but that. Like people, they saw that like alongside the collaborative tools, we were building games, and people just like drifted towards it because it was in the end easier and more fun to do that, because some people believe that VR like should have been from the beginning conceptualized and promoted only as a gaming tool. I don't completely agree with that, but it is very strong in gaming, and we shouldn't undersell that. So yeah, what would happen is we would bring teams in to do something like we have archery games, paintball, escape room, among others that are coming out. And the events that we had, like whether they were small events of like a team of maybe 8 or 10 people, or even large events with 100, 200, 300 people, what would happen is like, regardless of the size, and it doesn't matter if the company is hosting itself or they've asked us to help them host, which we do. And it doesn't matter if it happens like weekly, like it's a weekly team that comes in, comes into Remio together, or it's just like a once a year event. like whatever that is, the formula is always the same. It's like at the beginning, maybe there's like a time where we just have small talk, like chill in a social space. Then we play. That definitely happens. We come in there, we play the games, and then maybe if there's time, we'll do a recap, just talk about like how our experience was and so forth. But the key to all of it is play, and this is the general formula. There are exceptions, but this is just as what happened. So my CEO claims that, or Remio's CEO claims that it's about 50-50 as far as like team meetings versus play. I think actually play takes up more of the time, but yeah, it's in the end useful for both. So yeah, that's the current state of things within a platform like ours, because when you offer gaming, make it available to people, people will find a way to use it. So okay, so another thing, regardless of what's happening now in the platform, we're also looking to the future. And as you know, AI has been exploding. I'm sure like in the last 3 days during iLRN, people have been like talking about it constantly. Just all of the different uses and plugins that that OpenAI has offered. And like it's changing education a lot. It's changing my job a lot. Because I'm like becoming more productive while using it. And it's kind of overshadowing our efforts in VR to make us kind of reevaluate what the strengths of VR actually are. So VR, let's say, is stronger than AI at things like manually based training. So training that you have to do with your hands, working with equipment and so forth, because like any safety protocols and so forth don't need to be followed. It's just VR. You're just using it as a cheap way of educating yourself. Things like mental health, you can find uses in both domains, whether VR or AI or both of them together. But when we talk about what AI is useful for, it's an incredibly long list right now. So a few examples just off the top of my head were like filling out tax returns, getting all kinds of advice, doing translation, standardized documents. Like this is what I use it for, like just something that's a templated document. I can just say, this is what I want you to write about, and boom, it's done. And the list goes on. So like people will be quick to point out, probably, especially people within VR, that like VR and AI can go together. And that is a very compatibilist argument, and there is some truth to it. But AI certainly doesn't need VR to continue existing, because we're finding a lot of desktop and mobile phone uses for it already. And also for accessibility, we don't need to talk about it much, but like a phone or a computer is more accessible than a VR headset, typically. So that is to say, the strength of VR, since we have AI, which has shown us that like when something is incredibly useful, how it's picked up and it starts to be used collectively, it increases a lot. Like I remember that I heard that OpenAI has had a take up that has been quicker than like any of the social media platforms like of the previous era. So so it's numbers in the tens or hundreds of millions of people who have jumped into OpenAI. And VR, like even though we're on like the fourth wave of VR, if my count is correct, we haven't seen that much have that much traction yet, like even now. So so yeah, that means we have to start asking ourselves the question: what is the real use of VR? Where is it helpful? And it is most helpful in experiences. So what I mean is the things that people like to do inside of Remio, like play games, those are just experiences. You can't like attach a real value to that. You can try, but VR is very much an experience-driven platform. So people like to go there, explore, have fun. Sure, they can do meetings or something like that. But if you want to make the best use of it, you have to leave feeling like, well, that was like somehow enjoyable or stimulating to do. So with enterprise, it's a separate issue because enterprise focuses on productivity. But with education very often is experience driven too. So I do still believe that VR is good for education because like whether you're interested in history or the sciences, like you can fully immerse yourself within the subject matter using VR. So so yeah, that's my hypothesis. It's just like VR is better suited for just having experiences than being productive. So so people do try to quantify experiences, like attach a specific value, but it's kind of hard to do that. The best you can do sometimes is give a survey and say like how much did you enjoy it? Like how much do you feel like you learned? Or with team building exercises, like do you feel closer to your teammates? How much closer? And yeah, I mean, if you're like me, like if you like an experience, you just do all perfect scores, and if you didn't like it, like all zero. So, well, so the how much you can actually trust the surveys, it's really up in the air. So let's get to team building then. So now that we've built the context and my belief about experiences in VR, with team building is in some ways simple because they are a prepackaged group, meaning like we don't need to do the first step of getting people to introduce themselves. This is a team that knows each other and works together, and they're there to have fun together. So in a lot of ways, the path between, the path to getting to that like really fun, enjoyable experience that brings people together, that's already paved because they know each other. They might see each other on a regular basis, and now they're doing something fun in VR together too. So the team is already set. We just need to help bring them together through something that's fun. So another thing that makes team building easy is that there is real world accountability for bad behavior, meaning I'm sure everyone here is aware of harassment issues that happen in a lot of social VR platforms. That's not going to happen in a team event because you get fired for things like that. So you're going to be let go if, for example, you start making erotic noises to your coworkers. But in platforms like Rec Room or VRChat or Horizon Worlds, that happens every day. So and there's not really any accountability. You might get caught, you might get suspended for a couple of days, but apart from that, it's not going to ruin your life. So yeah, and on top of that, with a lot of teams, you don't feel the need to impress them or wow them in a way because people, especially in certain sectors, they want to appear positive to each other because nobody likes the one who complains and is negative all the time. So they'll try to sound positive generally. So when they get into VR to try something new, they're going to try to like it. Like they're actively trying to like it. So they're very open to having a good gaming experience. So to this end, like I'll speak of Remio, but it's true of other platforms too. It's like we have nice and interesting social spaces. So some of them very familiar contexts now, like a bar setting. We have futuristic settings. We have tranquil meditative settings, and we just added a couple more yesterday. So we're quite excited by them. We also have games, and we try to choose games that, well, we're trying to fill out a portfolio of games at the moment, but we've tried to choose ones that get conversation started as well and not are purely competitive. So the first one, GeoQuiz, I'm quite proud of because it's a GeoGuessr game. It's a GeoGuessr game for VR. So you see a 360 image and you try to look around and find out where you are in the world. And it's really good conversation starter. And there are a few other apps like that out there on Quest, but this one has the gaming component and it's free. So we're very proud to be able to do that. But yeah, there are a few other typical ones like an archery game, paintball, and so forth. And a couple new ones are coming really soon. So people come on, they have fun activities to do. They can socialize, and therefore, the team is built. The team bonding has happened, and it's a success in most cases. Okay, so now we move on to community building. So when you have an assortment of people coming into your virtual platform, you don't know who they are or where. I mean, you do know where they're from and who they are, but you don't know who they are as a person. Like what is interesting to them, what motivates them, why are they there specifically? So it's really important then, if you're doing community building, to overcome that and find out what their shared interests are. And if people behave badly, as I said before, there's not really any punishment for that. Nothing comes of that a lot of the time. And if there is a punishment and they are caught, then it's kind of limited what they can do. I know Quest, they are enforcing a reporting system, for their headsets. So if you are reported to Quest within any social VR app, it goes to the parent company or whatever, Meta, and then they enforce penalties. But I think this is happening really very soon. I think this is happening this month. But previous to that, platform by platform, there was limited accountability. And also people have mixed motives for being there. Some people want to have fun, some people are curious, and some people are toxic and want to cause trouble. So in community building, what we found early on, or what I knew already, but what everybody on the team learned early on, is that just having servers, servers being specific, areas specific to a group, so that you don't encounter people on different servers, even though all of the spaces look the same. So so you have people on servers, you have social spaces that I just listed, social spaces, and you also have the games as well. But that isn't sufficient to build a community unless your community is just about the game. So you can come in there, you can play a game, chat for a while, but the people that you encounter are likely not going to have a lot of shared interests. They're not going to become your best friends unless you spend a considerable amount of time there, or you're just lucky. So we need some way to make that process quicker and easier, because if you're building a community, communities tend to stay and populate the space and make you a thriving platform. So some of the things that we need to have that platform, it includes good connection, communication, a shared set of values. We need to make the infrastructure is in place so that people have support where they need it, that they have the features they need to keep their community going. They need to feel it's purposeful, in that you're improving as you go there, that you have more status as you go to that, encounter that community, that you're engaged, involved with other people, and that you have a role there, so that over time people see you and they know who you are and what you do. And then I just toss in at the end monetization because it costs money as well. But I'll talk about that at the end. So the framework for sharing an interest or getting people with a shared interest together, it's not a mystery at all. Yeah, the social platforms like Reddit or Discord, they do this very well already. Like Discord, for example, they have independent servers which are tied to either a game or a hobby or business and so on. They and Reddit, which also categorizes their posts and Reddit pages, they're very good at getting people of a shared interest together already. So we're not, as Remio, innovating on that right now. So what we're doing currently is like building out this framework. It actually hasn't been released yet, but this summer we will be releasing our framework for getting people into communities around a shared interest in the way that these other social platforms do. So yeah, basically what you need to do, I think it's very non-controversial to say, is you need to put people within their interest groups. You need to add tags and categories so that people can find those groups, make them searchable, make events so that people will gather in larger numbers. So people know at this specific time something is happening, whether it's just like a weekly meetup or a bigger lecture. Like people know to come together and just communicate and build upon their relationships, show the strength of the community. And then also, well, what we need to do here, and maybe this is specific to VR, is like we need public areas as well, like public areas that aren't associated with the group, so you can meet other people who might be interested in that group. So if you're only interacting with a specific server, you may be siloed within that server. So so you're just speaking to other people who share an interest, but you need to find other ways to reach out and get that community to grow further. So for engagement and progression, excuse me. So engagement and progression is important. What some platforms do is they have superficial markers that just show off the amount of time spent in the platform. You can do this with levels. For example, if you played Rec Room, Rec Room has levels starting from 1 to 50 at the moment. And your level goes up just by continuing to stay there in the platform, but it doesn't give you any benefit apart from status. So like when you level up, okay, you get a prize or something, but yeah, it's just a status symbol. So if you get up to 50, people don't, oh wow, you've been here for a while. So you can give a sense of progression that way, but in the end, it's just a number, and it's not meaningful in terms of what you do in that platform, because you might just go in, play a solo game once, like once every day for 5 years, and then you're level 50. It doesn't mean you made any friends. It doesn't mean you made any creative efforts. It's just mean you go there. So so another way to give engagement and a sense of progression is to show like attendance, give people metrics for attending an event, like how many people are interested, how many people went. If you have your own server, like based around like a hobby, let's say I made a server specifically for drummers. So so in this drummer server, I'll say it has this many members, which is a sign of like how successful it is in being maintained, and people can more quickly find it. Yeah, so another way to increase engagement is make their platform visible. It should be server, actually server visibility. Just make sure other people can find that server, finding ways to promote it. For example, the server of the day, or ordering them amongst a more from most to least popular. So the most popular servers appear first, which again is a sign that people are taking care of their server, making it a good and welcoming place, and also giving people something to do, like games and so forth, because these casual games are very helpful in having like particular experiences throughout your experience, like beyond conversation. So yeah, we have all that. So as I mentioned early on, my master's thesis was in harassment within social VR. So I have spent a fair amount of time studying it, and found that solutions are hard, and they come with trade-offs. So by trade-offs, I mean, if you want the platform to be really involved in moderating spaces, you might have them moderating the type of interactions you don't want them to. You might have to give up a certain degree of privacy because they are recording your conversations, even if they are deleted after a period of time. Other people have had access to it, and if especially like there was a harassing experience that occurred, it might be preserved, and in addition to the interaction you were having. So yeah, that's just the trade-off. You give up some privacy, and also you have the social VR platform deciding what is acceptable for you. So I've seen this in many big and well-funded platforms, not only in VR, but in like desktop metaverse platforms as well. So we didn't go with that approach in Remio. What we're doing instead is empowering the admins of different servers. So we have official Remio admins, and we do moderate those. But in servers owned by other people, the admins and owners, they have all of the moderation tools that they need. And essentially it comes down to muting somebody who's being disruptive, or removing someone from the server space, or just suspending or banning them completely. And how those punishments are implemented is completely the decision of the admin. So people might have different standards for behavior, and we have to respect that as long as everything is legal. So yeah, as long as they're not doing something that is prosecutable, then servers are like left to their devices here. And we also don't want people to feel completely abandoned in this as well. So we leave communication channels open between the servers and Remio itself. And we do that in the form of a feedback booth. So somebody can like go into the feedback booth and record a video. Very oftentimes it's amusing, but also often they are telling us something new about the platform, or telling us about a problem that they had. So it might be a problem with a specific user, and like judging on the situation, we may have to intervene. Also, an unexpected side effect of direct feedback that anybody can give is some people self-incriminate. So they might engage in like either inappropriately sexual behavior or hate speech. And in either of those cases, we would intervene, because they've now like sent a video to us basically outing themselves as violators of a specific code that Remio has. So we would then remove them from the server and the platform. So so yeah, that was an unexpected side effect. We didn't expect so many people to, well, not so many, but we didn't expect people to just like out themselves as being toxic, but they do. So we predict a few outcomes based on this. Excuse me. Because as I said, the framework is being built and will be out this summer. What we expect to happen is that servers will succeed and fail based on the attention that they give to their server. So if people are neglectful, if they neglect moderation, they don't enforce it, and it just becomes a toxic cesspool, people who are well-intentioned and want to be part of a larger community in a meaningful way, they're not going to go there because the admins are not taking care of their platform. And just to clarify, like when we say admins, it's not only the owner. Like as other community members come in, you're able to make them admins as well, so that any admin can use the moderation tools available, which includes banning people from that server. So yeah, we just ban that user and they're out. And as Remio, if we find that some users are being banned from multiple servers, it's time to remove them from Remio completely, and we can do so based on either user ID or, in some cases, the headset ID as well, so they can't just come under a different account. So we do expect that, but also because moderation needs to be cared for, there is more engagement, just to make sure, like in real world talk, the streets are clean. Just make sure everything's okay and people can just come into the community. It's a completely safe space and we can have a good time. And then if some antisocial person comes in, we're able to remove them from the space, and people can continue having a good time without the platform intervening. Because if you do wait for the platform to intervene, like even in bigger and well-funded social VR platforms, it takes a considerable amount of time. So it needs to be reported to a community manager who needs to go through a review process, and they go through the review process many times per day, and that it can be several days before they actually are able to respond and do something. So to this effect, moderators, they take up official roles within the community, and as we say, communities are built on like having those established roles, like having a purpose. So so even though we might feel like this is a real kind of maintenance, just making sure everybody is getting along well within a server, it has the other effect of making it a more engaging place, because you actually are taking care of how people are doing on an individual level. Like in a social VR platform of any size, we would not have the resources to do that. But if people have a vested interest in individual communities rather than the platform itself, then somehow it has more meaning for them. Like they have a purpose there, and they come back. And finally, after a server which was public achieves a specific amount, a certain amount of success, they might decide, like, hey, we're doing good. We have a lot of active members. We're able to hold our regular meetings where we can have fun together. We don't need to be open to the public anymore. Let's just be private. And everyone else we bring in, we can audition them, or like just people we meet and we like, we can bring them in too. So it grows that way, but not just by having random people come into the space. So this is great for communities who prefer to stay small. Like maybe you just want a core group of 20 or 30 people, and that's great. But if you also want to grow as much as possible, that's fine too. You can just stay open and people can come in and your network of moderators can grow with that. Okay, so that is the piece on harassment and moderation. So let's talk about moderation, and this is a point that you don't hear a lot about in community management because it forces us to face a hard reality, is that teams within the social VR platform are expensive, and the money has to come from somewhere. I'm sorry, but it does. So when interest rates were low, it was easier to convince investors of any kind to help you build the platform so that you could get it going, and then along the way find a strategy, like a monetization strategy. But social VR platforms, they've been, let's say, hampered by social media, which came before it, because that had a completely separate model and different, let's say, potentials for engagement. Because with social media, as everyone aware, it's an ad model. It's an ad model, and like it's built, maybe not so much in Europe anymore, but within the US and other countries to target you specifically. So it's just a hypothetical, like if you're in your 40s, and Facebook knows it, you start to get a lot of ads about like quick and effective ways to lose weight. So troubling, hypothetically. And also with social media, their goal is to keep your attention for as long as possible, to the point where regulators, for example, TikTok, have to come in and say, like, you need to put in some checks in place because your platform is too addictive. But with social media, there's no limit. There's no limit to how much time you can spend on your phone. I mean, you could be there doom scrolling for hours, day upon day, if you can't stop yourself. But with VR, that is not the case, not at all. So far with social VR, I haven't seen evidence of them extracting value by selling your data with the ads or so forth. I don't know if that's the same with the hardware that's being used, but but with the social VR platforms, we're just going to say that that's not the case, because they don't even have a platform to advertise to you. So we can't do that. So we introduce other things like subscription models, which are quite popular. So whether it's VR Chat Plus or Rec Room Plus, or others like Engage, or I think Spatial, which have like different like membership levels. So you have to pay your way up to another level, and you're allowed more features based on what you pay. Digital goods, so in-app purchases. This is very popular in like Rec Room, for example, and I think Sansar, if ever anybody remembers that or knows about that, and other defunct ones as well. They sold digital goods and relied on a percentage from the marketplace. But yeah, that's a whole other lecture about how digital goods motivate, like about how motivating digital goods are. Some people try both, especially Rec Room, and some do neither. So currently Remio would fall into this category, because we don't have subscription services necessarily, even though we do have an enterprise level for businesses. On the individual level, there's no way to pay us. So we'd be in that category. So beyond the payment models, like just keeping a VR headset on your head for an extended period of time can be uncomfortable. So it's uncomfortable for some more than others, but yeah, eventually everybody has their breaking point and they say, I can't do this anymore. So which is why VR development is slower than development for desktop, is just because people get tired. They get tired of putting on a VR headset. So so that is to say, with VR communities, the hard truth is that as a company, we're not convinced that community building is going to be successful on its own. And the reason we think that is because even though there are platforms out there now with communities, with active communities, they're usually successful for a different reason. So let me explain a little bit. If you are in a community in VR chat or rec room, it is very often a creative community, or it's adjacent to a creative community. And that means you have the tools you need to build the kind of experience or environment that you would want. So this is a user-generated content. So user-generated content, it does extremely well within these spaces. And if you're the best at enabling UGC, then you're just going to get the most visitors, and that's been true for like within VR specific VR chat and rec room. It's also true with Roblox and Minecraft, which are huge outside of VR spaces so far. And we can point also to communities or platforms that focus more on communities and events, like the recently sunsetted AltSpace. For a long time, it had the most robust communities. I mean, of course, that's controversial. Everybody loves their own community, but AltSpace was known as an event platform, and many of those events were run by specific. They called them channels on AltSpace, and in the end, the level of engagement at AltSpace wasn't enough to make it worth the effort to the platform. So a lot of people say it was because Microsoft didn't, in the end, see the potential that was there, or see how much meaning it had. But when you talk to people who were there when the decisions were being made, they'll just say, it's like, yeah, I mean, we had large scale events, we invested a lot, we had famous musicians come in and so forth, but this didn't move the needle as far as reading like a critical mass, like where we could continue to use it. Oh, that late already? Sorry. So yeah, there's that. And if you remember High Fidelity VR, which was run by people associated with Second Life and Linden Labs, like they went out early, and their business model was explicitly like having that marketplace of goods. Of course, like AltSpace, they had some user-generated content, but for the most part, it wasn't native to the platform itself, and it was just focusing on the core community with how they both communicated with people and wanted to well, it became a kind of insular in a way, and failed to expand, and part of that was just they were too early, they're pre-standalone, but this is really the evidence that we have to draw from. So as a platform, you need to like consider your resources, and how much of your resources you can put into a community building versus gaming or user generated content, and which is going to draw more people. So yeah. So that's the research question going forward for Remio and all of us really, is like how do we prioritize this? Like how do we treat communities like fairly and make sure that they have the kind of experience they want to, but also keep the company afloat, because we need to pay like like maybe like six-figure payments for payroll and expenses every single month, and without a payment model in place, where we're never going to meet that, and without being leveraged by investors, or like in Horizon World case, like for a long time they've been losing money quarter after quarter, and it's just been bolstered by their social media platform. So so yeah, that leaves everybody in a bit of a bind. So what our approach at the beginning is, like, we're not going to jump all in with communities and events. We're planning to enable them in such a way that people can join individual servers. They can self-moderate, bring people together based on interest. We'll make it easy to find events and event calendars and so forth. And then if our research has been good enough and the framework has been strong enough, that should be more than sufficient to have a thriving community that can come together, have fun, build relationships, and also do activities like gaming, and yeah, and we can park it there so that communities can be self-directed, while also pursuing other things, like throwing in more games once in a while, or another enterprise feature now and again. But we also want to make sure that like maintaining this framework for communities will it'll be reciprocated as well. So if communities come in and that they want to keep a kind of status quo and not help the platform grow, then that's a bad sign, because these platforms, whether it's social media or social VR, these platforms rely on growth to continue, and also engaging with the paid content and premium features that are available or will be made available. So again, if we find we have communities that don't contribute to maintaining those communities, it's a sign that people don't value them enough to keep them going. So like my hope is for, like, as we introduce these new server lists and this framework and these event systems to Remio, that it really will spark interest and engagement and growth for the platform, to the point where most people are not in official Remio servers. Most people are in their own community servers, where they can be amongst people who share the same interests, and that will be a good sign for us, just to keep the effort going, because people have been focused on growth. And when, for example, if we decided to join the bandwagon and have a subscription service as well, that a significant number of people would just say, hey, you know what, I love this place, let's do it. So yeah, so that's my hope for this year, is that we see that kind of a good back and forth relationship between our visitors and Remio. So yeah, man, I ran a lot longer than I expected to. But yeah, I can pause for questions. And just to say that, yeah, I'm head of product at Remio. I also do VR for education, yeah, with VEDX, amongst a host of other things. I have have them teaching in the well as well in university setting and trainer and so forth. And if you want to learn more about Remio, you can Google it. You can search it on the Quest store. You can also find me personally at Lance G. Powell Jr. Twitter, LinkedIn is where I'm most active.
All right, thank you very much. Let's give Lance a hand. You can find the clap button in the reactions. So yeah, thanks a lot.